when this came up in my mind and in talking about it with myself and with Jamie and with people, somebody said, well, Grant, what kind of an actor are you? And I said, oh, God, I hope I'm a good actor. I studied at the Bristol of Vic, blah, 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 which really means nothing. And I came up with an idea. You know what kind of actor I am? I'm a people actor. When I look at my career, and regardless, Broadway, Timbuktu, it's the people that I worked with that I think about. I can't hardly remember the name of the plays and thing, but I can remember the liaison I had with people. We immediately connected, and I knew that the performance was going to grow because we connected as people. And it's an intangible thing, but it's magic. When I was at the Bristol Vic, we could go to the Bristol Vic Theatre in downtown Bristol whenever we wanted to. And Peter O'Toole was the leading actor. So I went as often as I could. And they said in class that I'd say, tell us about what you saw in Peter O'Toole. And I said, he walked on the stage, his eyes lit up. I thought, my God, that guy's got a bulb in his head. A bulb went on, and sitting in the audience, I felt warmth from him. I couldn't tell you a thing about his acting. I just felt warmth and blue eyes and magic. And in a way, I've tried to work toward that. I'm not saying I've succeeded. It's something that has no end to it. To be on that stage or that television camera or that whatever and be warm, loving, respectful. You get respect by being respectful. And I've worked with magic people. Magic, John Hirsch, Arnold Spohr. And I'm not just dropping names. I mean, John Hirsch was a Jewish peasant from Hungary who came to Winnipeg, and in a crap hole theater that needed work, we performed magic. We were doing Thieves' Carnival, and the leading lady lost her voice. And because we had all worked together, we had all kind of been in a mixing bowl together, one of the actors said, I can play her part. And when on that night, word perfect. Word perfect. Wasn't her part. But that incredible mixing of people and standing up for people and everything. You know, we're in the Kenny Wicks studio. It's going to force me to, and I want to, talk about Kenny Wicks. Kenny and I got a phone call from a theater in Hamilton. They said, we're doing a production of The Fantastics, and you've done 15 productions. You must know something about it. I thought, well, maybe. And Kenny said, if you do it, I'll do it. And they said, now don't worry, you'll have minimum rehearsal. So a week later, we got the rehearsal schedule every day, 9 to 6, every single day. A lot of sitting around. So the director had hired a little lady that was sweet on to do the choreography. And she was from the school of, I'll feel the moment. I'll feel the moment. Well, I asked her to feel the moment a little faster because we were getting bored. So I was kind of tight. I went over to one side and I'm kind of doing some exercises and things, not really dancing. And I suddenly stopped. She was standing next to me and she said, we won't have Snoopy shit in this production. And from across the room, Kenny Wicks said, you'd be lucky to have Snoopy shit in this production. That family, warmth, caring. We did a production at Harper Fantastics again. Kenny Wicks again. We were having a call to try our costumes on. And the director was the artistic director of a very big company in Toronto. And so I had my costume on. I was standing there with him. He said, now, Grant, take a pose like your character because you're going to learn to act in this production. A beat went by and Kenny Wicks said, well, then it follows you're going to learn to direct in this production. You know, that incredible family stuff. caring and looking out for each other, you know? As an actor, I was a kind of sponge.
Oh,
and I just loved to suck up, if you'll excuse the expression, the kind of stuff that I got. And when it wasn't there, my work suffered. You know, I'd be doing I can't remember off the top a play, but I can remember several instances. Acting isn't coming. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. What's wrong? And what was wrong was there was no connection.
Yeah.
And you can't buy it. No. You can't bottle it. You know?
No.
And, you know, let's face something right off the top of this. Grant Cowan got more opportunities than most actors. When I applied for my American pension at Equity, Canadian Equity said, get all the contracts you can together and send them to Equity. Well, somebody said, don't bother. It'll sit at Equity for 12 years and you'll never get anything. So I went to Equity. I lined up in a lineup. I had this pile of contracts. And I thought, where the hell do these all come from? And I looked and they were all Grant Cowan. I got more chances than most people. Now, I've made some of those happen, like February, nothing's doing. Sudbury called and said, would you like to do something? And I found something I wanted to do, and I found people I wanted to do it with.
Oh.
It was a bit of a crutch in a way, but I'm not ashamed of the crutch.
No.
We were on the same speed, but we weren't on speed. You know what I mean? Yeah. We were high from the doing. You know, my story, play the violin now, please. Somebody play the violin. You know, my father was an orphan, brought up in an orphanage in Oakville, Ontario, and every Sunday, the boys from Appleby College and the boys from the nursing home would go to church together. And that's where my father heard the word lawyer, because some of the boys' fathers were big shot shits lawyers. So my father wanted to be a lawyer. Well, the orphanage said, you can't be. You're not rich and you're not the right ethnic background to be a lawyer. My father said, oh, really? He graduated with a gold medal in Ontario, a high school, at 15, went to Winnipeg and worked on the farm that had belonged to his father and mother and had been stolen from them, but he didn't say anything. He just worked on the farm. And when he got his law degree, he sued the people that had the farm, and they couldn't come up with any papers because they'd stolen it. And that, you know, when you're the son of a man who has done all of this, it changes where you're going and where your outlook is. And I'm sure he must have been disappointed that I wanted to be an actor. I mean, I'm sure he probably said out loud, what the hell is that? What the hell is being an actor? He's going to act in plays? Good God. And yet, as a lawyer, my father was an actor.
Yeah.
That's where I got it from. But he didn't want to hear that, you know. And that's why I decided I'm going to go to England and study. Oh. I went to New York. I went to various theatrical schools. And they were all kind of modeling schools. The gorgeous girls and the gorgeous guys with a head, they all bragged, oh, don't you know, Monica Schneider studied here. And I went, well, I'm in trouble then, aren't I? I'm short, dumpy, and what have you. So I went to England to study. My father must have wondered, what the hell is he doing? And they were tough. They were really tough on me. I didn't have the right accent. I didn't speak the same way. I mean, Patrick Stewart, name dropping, sorry about that, was in the class ahead of me.
Oh my God.
Patrick Stewart was from the north of England. I'm from the boy. And I said, what the hell is he talking about? And of course, reading a play with him, and I was going, well, yeah, I mean, they must have thrown up their hands and said, what have we got ourselves into? We've got a Canadian jumping bean and a North Country miners guy. And look what came of it, you know. the late Kathy Elliott. We were at Muskoka together, and the set was two kind of coffins on their side, and they spun around and everything. Well, of course, glasses, not wearing them. Bang! I went into the side of the thing. Blood is pouring down my face. Well, I just kept going. Well, all of a sudden, I felt this girl next to me. She put her hand over my. She said, "Now look, Grant, you're bleeding all over the place. You're spoiling the play and everything. Look, I'm just going to get a chair. You sit down. We'll get a doctor. Oh my God, you're bleeding. I love you. I love you. You're bleeding. You're bleeding." They got an ambulance, took me to a hospital somewhere, and I was being worked on by a doctor, and somebody came into the room. I was half out of it, really, and said to the doctor, "There's an important phone call for you." And the doctor said, they said it was urgent. So the doctor went to the phone, and this voice said, "Look, my name's Kathy Elliott, and I was in a play with Grant. He banged his head, he's bleeding all over the place. You're taking care of him. You take care of him. He's precious to me and to us, so you be good to him." You know, I went to her service, and I'm dying to get up and tell that story. I didn't, as it happened. But, you know, again, it's that incredible camaraderie from people. And I found it in strange places. This is name dropping a bit. I'm in my dressing room on the tour of Beauty and the Beast, and bang, bang on the door. I thought, what the hell's that? I go over and I open the door, and this big black man is standing there. And he says, "Look, you, Beauty and the Beast is American. You got an accent. I heard an accent, and it's American. So I just came here to tell you, you have to be American." Well, it was Muhammad Ali. Well, he was a fraternity brother of our manager. That's how this all came about. When he went to Ed Fisher, and he said, "You know, I scared the hell out of that poor guy. I need to do something to make up for it." And Ed said, "Well, why don't you take the company out for dinner?" And he said, "What a great idea." He called some restaurant. They did a whole bunch of the characters from Beauty and the Beast, ice and everything. And we're all sitting around, and Muhammad Ali and his wife and two kids come out, and Muhammad stops, and he looks around. I thought, what the hell's going on? He looks around, and he said, "There aren't any black people in here." And the manager said, there are black people in the kitchen. Muhammad said, "Then get them out here. Set up that table over there. I'm buying them dinner." They came out, and they all sat down, and he turned to the manager and the owner, and this is God's truth. He said, "Look, you white boys, get in the kitchen and get serving dinner. My black friends are hungry." I mean, you cannot be the same person after experiencing this man who had empathy for the world on his shoulders. Was so loved. And he came, I have a huge photograph of him, and he signed his name and everything on it because he cared. Not everybody, wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone in the world cared? Charlottetown was fabulous. I loved being there. And you know, Alan Lund's assistant said to me, "Grant, you're doing 3 shows. You're doing Adam Green Gables. It's like instant coffee. Add water and stir." Well, add water and stir. My character had to go across the front of the stage on a bicycle with no rehearsal. I'd never been as frightened in my life. I thought I'm going to end up in the orchestra pit. And one of the stagehands came to me and said, "Just watch me. I'll grab you if you're going to fall." I was terrified. There also was a scene where Mr. Phillips rings the school bell. Well, I knew how I got the school bell, and I finished the scene. I still had the school bell in my hand. Well, I'm the kind of person that deals with it. I went, threw it over my shoulder. It banged against the set. I heard the audience opening night gasped because in Charlottetown it's kind of tradition that the locals come to the first show. They wanted, who's playing Anne, who's doing this. Well, they were flabbergasted that this little guy from nowhere was throwing the props around. Well, what was I supposed to do with it? Stick it in my ear? I either threw it, dealt with it, you know? Wow. I looked over it after it was over. Elizabeth Moss came to me. Another light bulb. another person full of love and caring.
Yes,
She put her arms around me and said, "Oh, you certainly put them on their ass tonight, didn't you?" They couldn't get over it. I mean, watching her performance was a privilege. I started out as a dancer because I had polio when I was 6, paralyzed from the neck down for 17 months. My uncle was a doctor, and my mother had put him through medical school and my father through law, so they had a family meeting. And my mother said, "You know, I saw in the newspaper that some nun is in Minneapolis. She's got a treatment for polio called Sister Kenny. Let's go." So my mother got the x-rays from the hospital, and they went to, and my uncle's kind of flabbergasted. My mother just walked right up after the lecture was over and said, "Sister Kenny, may I speak to you?" My uncle thought, "My God, where'd you get the nerve?" And Sister Kenny said, "What's it about?" "Well, I have my son's x-rays. Would you look at them?" And she said, "I'd be thrilled to." And she looked and spent well over an hour. And she finally said, "I want you to go home, and I want you to boil pieces of flannel. And I want them boiling hot, and I want you to put them on Grant's legs. And you'll then exercise it when the heat starts permeating the muscles." I had been paralyzed for 17 months, and 4 weeks later, I went back to school. Not walking on my own, piggyback on my mother. My mother took me to school, piggyback. Well, some of the guys in the class said, "You know, we can handle that." And I've just been in Winnipeg to get an award from Rainbow Stage, and I invited those 4 guys and their wives to a dinner party, and they talked about carrying me to school, piggyback, until I could walk. And then when I started to walk, they walked with me, worrying, is he going to make it all the way? And very soon I was dancing. I decided, or it was decided by somebody, that maybe some dance classes might strengthen my legs. So I went to the Arnold Spohr with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. He must have wondered, who the hell is this? I had gym shorts on and white running shoes, and I think he was going to say, the sports thing is down the hall. This is a ballet studio. And I was really good at it. I didn't want to dance. I just didn't want to waddle. I wanted to get rid of that waddle. Well, after 4 years, he said, "Would you like to be in a show?" I said, "No." He said, "Yeah, I think you would like it. I see a kind of spark in you, and I'm going to feed it." Rainbow Stage, September 19 whatever, long before most of you were born. We did Brigadoon, freezing cold, and I had a ball. I loved it. Again, it turned this magic on, and I never looked back. I went on to John Hirsch at the Manitoba Theatre Centre, show after show after show after show. They just seemed to happen like some kind of ball rolling along. And it bowled me all the way to England, and bowled me back, and bowled me to Toronto. Mavor Moore was doing a production of Spring Thaw, and he cast me. And one of the things I had to sing in the show was a song called "Our executive washroom is not a particularly posh room. No gold-plated faucets, no foam rubber seats. You'll find 100 like it on any city street. But our executive washroom is the can of the man of the hour." And after the opening night party, Dora Mavor Moore came to me and she said, "I think the problem of elimination makes for a very delicate comedy material." And I said, "Mrs. Moore, I mean, you're a legend in the theater. I wasn't in that number alone. Drew Thompson, Peter Muse, and Bill Cole were with me." She said, "Oh, yes, I like them." And somebody turned to me and said, "Grant, we'll help you take the banana off your face." But I took it off, and she liked me eventually, let me tell you. I had a duet with Pam Hyatt that we still sing it all the time, ad nauseum, I might say. But it was a hit of the show, and it was great,
Oh, my God.
And that's where I met Alan London. That led to Charlottetown 3 years, and industrial shows where you make good money,
Yes.
so that one can survive and everything.
Oh my God.
It goes on and on, you know. At the Bristol Vic, the students thought of me as a dancer, the teachers thought of me as a singer, and I don't know what anyone else thought of me, but I was really kind of all three.
Yeah.
And it mushroomed and grew into a triple threat, they call it today, I think, you know.
Yes, you are.
Danced a lot with the Royal Winnipeg. They had a famous French ballerina head the company one year, and she said she wanted a young dancer, hello, I wasn't all that young, to be the flower presenter, but they wanted him to be a dancer. He had to be able to. So I was a member of the company, and all I did was print flowers at the end of the each ballet to the ballerina. That was my one claim to being a ballet dancer. It stopped there somehow. I had a terrible experience just recently. I flew to Winnipeg to get an award from Rainbow Stage because I'd done 16 shows for them. And they had this big ceremony, and I invited all the guys that carried me to school and their wives to come to the theater. Well, they announced, and Grant will make a little speech, and there's stairs on either side of Rainbow Stage, no railing. Well, I'm 87 now, so I walked over, and of course I put one foot on the stair, and I thought, how the heck am I going to... So I had to crawled on my hands and knees up the stairs. What else could I do? But I said, boy, you've seen lots of angles of Grant Cowan here. You know, but you deal with it, you know. I'm not embarrassed.
No.
I'm proud of being 87. I've survived this long, through thick and through thin, you know. And that's part of the theater magic. There are things, responsibilities we take on that we have to deal with. And you deal with them, and you get them done. It's what I think is the magic of the theater commitment, the theater discipline. And it is discipline, you know. It's a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
You have to do the show, whether you like it or not. It has to be done. We went to Las Vegas with the Your Good Man, Charlie Brown tour, which I toured for 13 years. Hello? I was like a letter lost in the mail. We were playing in Las Vegas, and Elvis Presley was in the big theater, and we were in the little theater. I came one day to the theater, and the security guard said, I'm going to tell you something I shouldn't tell you. And I thought, whoa, hey, give me little juicy stuff, you know. I'm up for that. He said, Elvis has slipped in the last 2 nights and watched a bit of your show. I said, wow, you know, just invited him to say hello or something. So the word got around, and our manager spoke to the colonel, and the colonel said, as a matter of fact, Elvis has a favor he wants to ask Grant. And the manager came to me and I said, well, name it. I'm game for it. I don't care what it is. I'm available. So he said, my drummer's 50th birthday is coming up, and he's a great Snoopy fan. Would you jump out of a cake? I said, sure. So the day I put on the costume, and I went to an area in the hotel where they had the party was up, and there was a great big cake, and I assumed it was paper. You know, when you're asked to jump out of a cake, you assume that it's paper. I got it inside. I jumped up, and it was cake. Cake went flying. I had cake. I promise you, I'm not exaggerating. I'd be out a week later, and someone would say, Grant, you got something white on the side of your face. The cake goes into your pores. Well, Elvis felt terrible. He said, not to me, but to somebody, didn't they tell him it was a real cake? So it was arranged that Elvis and I would meet with the colonel in an office. And I came in, and Elvis said, how much you want? I said, what? He said, how much you want for jumping out of the cake? I said, I don't want anything. Oh, you don't like money? No, it's not that. I said, Elvis, let me tell you a story. Pushing me. I said, you know, the 1st of November, 2022, I'll be in a room with Valerie and Trish, and I'll be telling them a story about meeting you, and that's worth all the checks in the world. He said, no, it's not enough for me. That's not enough. Okay, what about pictures? Do you want some pictures? I said, well, I've got 3 nieces and a nephew. So the colonel went and got these great big photographs, and Elvis wrote, thanks. Well, one of my nieces' name is Gay, G-A-Y-E. He wrote G-A-Y-L-E. And he saw me go. He said, what's wrong? I said, that's not her name. Her name's Gay, G-A-Y-E. Oh, well, you better have that one. Take that one. He said, you know, this isn't enough. He said to the colonel, give me some paper. He wrote each of them a letter saying, enjoyed meeting your uncle. Be well and happy, Elvis. They've got them framed in their rooms in Dallas. I mean, that kind of magic. So 2 weeks later, I got a call. Are you available on your day off? Elvis wants to see you again. He liked you. So I'm at the place I'm supposed to be. There's a big limo. We drive along the avenue in Las Vegas. We go into a casino. They give him piles of chips. He turns to me and he gives me a pile of chips. And I'm studying this pile. He said, what's wrong? Well, how much is this worth? He looked at it and he said, oh, I don't know, $60,000 or $70,000. I said, I'm not making $60,000 or $70,000. He said, by the way, you can't win with them. They're coded. You can play with them, but you can't win. They've got a code on them. One of the crowds, you can imagine, hearing that Elvis is gambling. And that's what the whole point was. We were there about 10 minutes, and gangs came. Again, at that time, he had a magic. I saw him later on. He didn't have that magic anymore. It was performing somehow, cold-blooded performing. I have to do this because I've been told to do it. I did a series with Lyle Alzado, a famous football player, and in Toronto. And I don't think we were up for an actor award, but he was invited to come to the actor awards, and he asked me to be his date. And I thought that was kind of liberal, you know. I'm obviously a gay man. He said, I don't care. I'm not asking you to go to bed. I'm asking you to go to a show with me. So he was living at the Royal York Hotel. So I met him. We walked along Front Street, and he said, watch this, Grant. There were about 4 limousines piled up. Of course, he walked up, and one of the drivers said, my God, that's Lyle Alzado. He said, come on, brother. I've got a favor. This is my date, Grant. Nice guy, eh? Woo, woo. Come on, drive us. Let us get in the limo and drive around, and then drive in the front of the convention center like we've been in the limo all day. They did it. We got out, the cameras. Yes, nice. Thank you, Joe. Take the rest of the evening off. You know, and it wasn't even his limousine. Again, he had that kind of magic. Not a great actor. He was a great football player. Not a great actor, but a great guy. A great guy. I can't tell you. We filmed for about 13 weeks, and I can't tell you the number of times he said, are you happy, Grant? And I wonder what the answer would have been if I had said, no, I'm not. But I was. Again, he had that light, and it beamed. People were attracted to him like bees to a beehive, because he had this magic that just oozed out of him. And I've met a lot of people like that. I finished Supper Time, Chicago. Finished doing Supper Time, no glasses on, I'm in the doghouse. The show ends and I crawl into the wings, the curtains down, and a voice says, you dance good, you dance good. And I thought, wish I had my glasses on. Who the hell sang that? And this little hand came up and said, ooh, it was lovely. I really liked you. You're lovely. Marco Fontaine and Rudolph Nureyev were in the big theater. They were waiting to do the finale. I mean, if I'd had my glasses on and saw that, I'd have fallen dead on the spot. Fallen dead on the spot. We were invited to go to Connie Francis's show in the main theater. And of course, I'm a Canadian from Winnipeg. What do I know about mafia and everything? I didn't know there was a connection some there with Connie Francis, and I don't know. So we sitting in the box, we had a box for ourselves, the whole cast, all new clothes and face washed and everything, for the occasion. And the first 2 rows of the theater had no people in it. All of a sudden, boom, 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 these guys come in and the whole audience stands up. And these weird-looking thugs fill these 2 rows. And one of them, a guy named Joseph Spolino, put that name on, turned to the audience and said, "Sit!" And everybody sat down. I couldn't believe it. The head of the Chicago Mafia were the first 2 rows. I'm not sure that actors ever have the luxury of kind of assessing their life. But now that I'm 87, and a while ago, I was talking to an actor, and I suddenly said, I'm a member of Canadian Actors Equity, American Actors Equity, and British Actors Equity. I'd never really thought about how lucky, there's that word again, how lucky I've been to do all that. And I was able to wear lots of hats. I was a singer. Sometimes Bob Ashley, for instance, you're a better singer than you think you are. But I think of myself as an actor, not as a singer. And I did a lot of things as a dancer. Incredible to wear all these hats. I mean, I did a play at the Passe Muraille. I'd take my clothes off. And it was very pertinent to what the show was about. It was called Just Us Indians, written by a wonderful young playwright. And it was, the point of my character was that I wore a dress. And they said, "Oh, you're hiding behind the dress." So I took the dress off. So the director said to me, "Now we'll just, Pat Hamilton was in the cast. And he said, "I don't want you to be intimidated, but when you're ready, just get naked." I'm like, oh God, will my mother still love me when I do this? So one day, I just decided, today's the day, I took the clothes off and everything. And word got out to some of my friends. And opening night, they sent a telegram, said, "Don't be distracted by the sounds of us all taking out our magnifying glasses when you take your clothes off." I wanted to kill them. But by that time, again, working Pat Hamilton and an actress with that light inside her, you didn't think I'm taking my clothes off. I'm doing what the play requires me to do. And that's my job as an actor, to do that. I had, I think, one of the most amazing experiences. Listerine were doing a series of commercials with a tough Army sergeant. And my agent put me up for it. And the casting man said, "But he's a song and dance man." And my agent said, "Give him a chance." I don't know whether you remember it. I had to go, "Right, Pinelli!" So finally, they had 2 actors for the part, myself and someone else. And they kept saying, "But he's a song and dance man." The casting man said, "Go with Grant. If after 2 hours of shooting, you're not getting what you want, I will pay to bring the other actor in." I mean, how many actors get that kind of belief? We have to believe in ourselves. And American agents are different than Canadian ones. When I got Beauty and the Beast, the casting director came to every audition with me. I'd never experienced that before. When I flew to Los Angeles to be okayed by Jeffrey Katzenberg and the other guy, big guy at Disney, he came and was there in the room with me. We don't get that kind of commitment from our people. We're just another name on the clipboard. If you don't get it, one of our other talents might get it, I'm not really criticizing because it's a big job. And he must have been fairly sure that I was going to get the role. My contract was $1 million.
Holy cow.
I looked up to this Bruce Gray, who was a wonderful Canadian actor who worked a lot in the U.S., drove me to the audition. And I came out of the audition, I looked up to the sky, and Bruce said, "What the hell are you doing?" "I'm telling my mom and dad they don't need to worry about me anymore. I just signed $1 million contract." And Bruce said, "Yeah, it's going to be tie you up for the next 6 years of your life, too." I said, "I should be so lucky to be tied up for 6 years." You know? A funny thing happened when the Canadian company of Charlie Brown opened at the Bayview Theatre. I'm not putting this actor down. Don't get me wrong. This is just a story of... So we rehearsed and it opened, and the second night he came on stage from the other side of the stage, not the one that had been set. Well, we survived it all, and the directors were still there, and they said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I don't want to get stale." We said, "It's only the second performance." And I did over 3,000 performances. Did I worry about getting stale? No, just, keep your pecker up. What can you do? But he was sincere. He really believed that he should change it the second night in order to not be stale. Wow. Pat Birch, who was the second Anybody's in West Side Story, really created a career of playing Anybody's in West Side Story, was the choreographer. She came into Chicago and she called the company together, gave us notes, and she said, "Go away, everybody. I want to work with Grant." She said, "Oh, Grant, I'm doing this new show in New York and I can't get the steps right. It doesn't feel right. I've got to work on it." We worked for about an hour and a half. I was wringing wet. I kind of lay on the floor of the room we were rehearsing in. She turned to the pianist. She said, "Start the music for the scene into supper time." I kind of went, "What?" She said, "Down. Calm. Quiet." And she came and she was a kind of little, like a munchkin. She came over and said, "Okay, Grant, we'll just start your lines into supper time." "Oh, it's supper time and Charlie Brown has forgotten to feed me." "Okay, Grant, far away. That's it. Take it farther, farther away." "Oh, supper time. Supper time." "No, less, Grant. Supper times." Anyway, I said, "Why didn't you just talk to me about it?" "Oh, by the way, there's no tap dancing in the show I'm doing in New York. I was just working your ass off to get you to relax." That commitment to her work is incredible. We were well over an hour of doing dancing that wasn't even in the show she was doing. But that commitment she brought. And she said, "You got to realize that I get royalties as long as you stay with the show. So why shouldn't I make you more comfortable? I saw the show last night, and my God, you sang supper time like you were screaming at the top of your head." And I said, "Well, why didn't you just tell me to take it down?" "Oh," she said, "this is more fun. And you'll remember this." She said, "I know you'll remember it after I leave." Incredible to work with people that have that kind of commitment to their work. You can't ignore that. You can't ignore that kind of commitment. It coats you in your work. I mean, most people don't have that enjoyment in what they're doing. I'm an actor because I want to be, not because I had to be, or my mother told me I had to be. I taught for a while at Margot Lane School of Television, and I had about 12 kids, and 11 of them didn't want to be there. They were there because Mommy wanted them there. They didn't do their homework. They didn't care. They fought with me. They didn't want to do it. All they had was the money to pay a very expensive course. They didn't want to do it. The one guy who did is now on an American series. When I see him, I go, "Hey, I taught him everything he knows. I taught him everything he knows." You know?
I love it.
It gives me such comfort, you know? We're so lucky in the theater that it demands a commitment. You can't act unless you care about what you're doing.
Passion, yeah.
It's in your soul. It comes oozing out of you.
It's true.
It oozes from some people more than others, you know. But wow. I just had so many opportunities that other people didn't get, you know. Wow. Marlene Smith decided to do another production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and I was working, couldn't do it. And she picked Marty Short. What a better person to replace you. Marty Short was fabulous, is a lovely man. You know, when I was doing Crazy for You with the Royal Alex and got Beauty and the Beast, they replaced me with Mickey Rooney.
Oh.
Well, you know. But I have it on my resume. I was replaced by Mickey Rooney.